Yeah, hi, this is Jeff. Today we want to talk about creating images. This is a 2D design course, but any kind of it can be any application where you want to put together some models. We're going to be using AI, Midjourney. There's also a new AI generator, new to me anyway, as of this recording. Adobe Firefly is fantastic, looks fantastic. So, and specifically, for this video, we've got an assignment where we create a fantasy scape. Now, and in this particular 2D design course, we have people from interior design, graphic design, illustration, art education, fashion design. We just happened to pick this in this assignment for whoever wrote it or designed it. It's a fantasy scape, and since it's a 2D course, we're talking about scale. So just as an example, when I'm making these models myself, you can see, I've generated. I'll show you some of these images that I'm generating. I generate the images in Midjourney, and then I bring them into Photoshop, so you can see on the different layers here. And the important thing is not just the image generation, but what you do with them. Okay, because you can see again, my approach is big foreground, develop some depth, go into the background, you have some overlapping. And in this particular assignment, you have to have at least 5 elements, and I hate to depend upon just one background. It's good to, for example, here I put a background in there that I generated. The beautiful thing about AI is that it's all original. There's no citations necessary. You're not ripping anybody off. These are all images that AI created for me. It's my butler. And I said, go out and create these images. So, it created this image. And then I said, well, okay, let's get a background image in there. This is a fantasy scape. And then let's put a head in there and, this thing and this thing. So do you see the approach though? Let's look at another one. This is one that I played with. So we've got this, some of the themes are like the world after the apocalypse, zombie apocalypse, fantasy scape. We'll be looking at some different alternatives to that as well. But so here I generated this apocalyptic cityscape, and then I generated a sky that I put back there because again I don't want to rely upon one image for the success of the composition. And then I brought in these different elements that I created. And again, for me, the challenge was movement, coming in, landing on the focal point, coming in and around, scale, keeping things out of the corners. I moved this guy out of the corner. The gaze, the gaze, the gaze off. It's a little bit over to the left, so I brightened up this car a little bit. But for me, I played around a lot with just the size of this thing here, and also editing. You'll notice that in this particular assignment, it's a 2-week assignment. You create a draft and then a final. So in this draft, for example, I can be, I brought in a number of different things and played with them, the sizes, and then I decided that I had to make my decisions accordingly. And a lot of times you throw a bunch of stuff in there and then you want to get rid of it. All right. So let's just take a look here and see. These are some of the images I created. Now, the other thing I want to focus on is your best friend. I know in this particular course, it's outmoded or outdated, and they don't have a lot of the tools, contemporary tools. This object selection tool, which for all I know is at the time of this recording is obsolete. If you have this selected, you no longer have to use your magic wand or your lasso or any of those. Look, it goes in, I copy it. If I want that face, if I want this face, that face, you can use the lasso to fill in some of these things. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to bring it over. Let's say I want to throw it in here. And there it is. So you can go over to your move tool and you can move it around and you can have some overlapping and things, and you can change the opacity. You can change the scale of these things up, until they start getting degraded. But that is your best friend is on these, is this object selection tool. Okay. So, oops, sorry. Wrong. Triangle tool, great. Okay. There we go. So what else do we have here? You can see I generate on my own website. You can see I have used AI to create a body of work specific to San Diego. I created a whole population of artificially generated, AI generated people that relates to my own body of work I've been doing for a number of years. I also started creating some landscapes because it was interesting for me to see what AI thought of San Diego, what it thought San Diego was. So, but in the meantime, I also just like, as an artist, I just like making stuff. You know, here's a monk a surfing monk. Here's portraits of people. Here's a passport photo of a gorilla. Plastic people. A lot of interior design stuff. It's just fantastic, and I just like making stuff. You can make desert scenes. This was a poster for a clown convention. You can do specific styles. You know, I was doing like modernism. Here I was doing some AI generated interior designs that dealt with some of the elements and principles of design, like line and color and things. So, yeah, hold on, let me get out of this. So, yeah, so I use it just to have fun, right? And make things, whether it's people, masks, and the sky's the limit. Interior designs, posters, people, different styles, knolling, etc. Okay, so how would we do that? Let's get started. Let's make one so you get an idea. So you need to either use Midjourney or get on that Firefly app. And this is what Midjourney looks like. It's $10 a month for me to generate the things that I want. And you can see I've just created hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You just sit around and you say, you know, you can put in things like Strawberry Monkey, you know, or Portrait of a Man Who Can't Win in the style of Diego Rivera. Or, you know, I did this Diego Rivera thing. I was doing concrete to the edge of the sea. I mean, just seeing what it would create. Some of these strawberries and monks related to an old Zen koan, but pretty much anything that you want. And you as a designer, as a graphic designer, as an illustrator, if you need to do a magazine cover or if you need to do something that involves, you know, food photography, this generates it. And how does it work? Well, let's see. So, for example, we're going to do, I thought it'd be good to do some interior design. I did some tree houses and I did some things I might want to put in my room. And then I did a room. Here's an interior design, surreal, strange, twisted fantasy room, timber floor that I thought came out really cool. And again, this is all original. This isn't somebody else's work that's been appropriated. This is AI going out and saying, I'm going to create a room. I'm going to bring these elements in and make these fantastic elements. So I think you can see it's a very powerful tool. And then I created some things that would go into that. But here's how you would create it. So, you know, it's slash and then imagine. And then a lot of times I will go in and I will copy what I have here and then paste it in. So here we have AR16.9 means it's wide format, high quality. Chaos 100 means more variations. And it got a little redundancy in here. You know, there's different parameters you can give it, but it's pretty easy. You can just type anything in there. So here I want to do geometric sculpture on white background, so it's easy to select. Okay. Oh, prompt. Hold on. Sorry, I didn't see that. Whoop. Okay. So it goes to generate that. And, you know, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Here it's waiting to start. Hold on, I'll just put it on. Well, no, here it's going. And you can see it starts to create that immediately, you know, and it's generating. Here it's at 15%. And you never know what it's going to create. You know, this was a humanoid sculpture on a white background. This was stacked rock sculpture on a white background. I really like those. I tried some candles. Candles might be hard to copy with the flame. Here's a surreal animal sculpture carved out of wood on a white background. I like those. Here's some rooms, some humanoid sculptures. Here's some really beautiful rooms. I love creating the rooms in this. And so here's our geometric sculpture that we can copy and paste. So here's what you do. So I go in here and I say, okay, I want to do one of these rooms, and I think I'll do this room. So I open a browser, and I copy that image, and I go over to Photoshop, and I say File New, and I paste it in. And I can make this bigger. I can increase the resolution if I want. I won't for now. So here's this empty room. The thing you have to look out for is, there's side lighting. So it's making, when you're collaging things together, having them be consistent and look like they belong there is going to be your issue. Let's just from scratch. Let's go in there then and say, okay, let's put in one of these rock sculptures. Okay, so we're going to open a browser. We're going to copy the image. We're going to go over to Photoshop, File New, Paste. And here I'm going to use what tool am I going to use? My object selection tool. Okay, which one of these should I select? Boop, boop. Well, I wanted a little bit more than that, sorry. Okay, and let's see. I think it's going to select all that for me. Yeah. So, and then I go over to my move tool and I move these things around. So I'm starting to create this fantasy scape. Now, this is a fantasy scape. That doesn't have to mean, in this particular assignment, that it has to be monsters. It has to be your own dream fantasy kind of creation. It doesn't have to have zombies, and things. Let's bring in a couple more things. Boom, boom, boom. Copy, File New, paste. And again, a lot of times I would make this bigger, like let's say I want to bring in, let's say I want to bring in this guy. So I would make him bigger, and I can also do image size 200%, right? Things like that. So there it's selected. I'm going to go over here, and I think this is going to work. No, it didn't. Sorry, it didn't get the. There we go. I want to do the selection on that. Hold on. There we go. I had to select subject. I did an okay job of selecting. Let's go over here. Now, it's big, isn't it? Now you can see the light. I might want to flip this image, just edit, transform, flip horizontal, maybe get the lighting in there. And let's get one more element in there. Let's get at least one more element in there. And again, this is going to get a little bit. This is going to get long if we're not careful. I really love these environments, and I'm wondering if I can bring any of these elements in. Do you think? Open in browser, copy image. Because again, I don't like to have the room have so much presence in there. What would go good? Let's get rid of that guy. And let's get rid of that guy. And let's look at this. Maybe one of these tree shapes would be cool. I don't know if it's going to do a really good if it can select that very accurately. It doesn't look like it. How about that? Let's just do the tree trunk. Designing on the fly, right? So, what I would also do with this, I think with this is I would put a sky in here. I would go down to my background layer, and I think what I would do is, for a fantasy scape, I would probably go in here, and let's just go ahead and put a blue sky in there for now. I don't want this to be, an hour-long tutorial. So let's imagine that we've diluted the power of this room, so no one actor has all the lines. We brought in these elements. So now, it comes down to design, okay? You know me, I keep things out of corners, right? So you don't create a big diagonal X. Scale is going to be really important, big, medium, and small shapes. We might want to, I know I like this guy big, but, maybe we can bring him down and place him in the focal point, right? And where's the focal point? The rule of thirds. You kind of visually you divide this into thirds. I'm going to put him here. What I don't like to see is corner, 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 or centered. I see a lot of things that are just centered, 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 right? So overlapping creates depth, right? Let's bring this up here. Scale creates a sense of depth. So I would keep working on this, bringing in elements. How do you make it fit, for example, in this room? Well, there's a couple of things. You can do hue saturation, and you can desaturate this to make it look like it belongs. You can also go into my favorite, which is Camera Raw filter. Unfortunately, it doesn't show you, the room. I would love to be able to. But we're going to up the contrast or up the exposure, take down some of the contrast, bump up some of the highlights, bring down some of the shadows, bring up some of the whites, the blacks, increase some of the texture, increase some of the clarity, dehaze a little bit, okay, up the vibrance, lower the saturation, hit OK, and hopefully we'll work on that to try to make it look like it belongs in that room. Some of these things don't need much, right? Now, if you want to play with this shape, for example, what I do is I hold down my Option key and I copy it, and then I turn off that layer so I have a backup copy. And then I can do what I want with this. I can make it absolutely huge if I want, over there. And then I can move this guy. Maybe he's getting over into the center there, but maybe I want to move him so that he is behind, coming out from behind these rocks. Okay, so just to summarize, AI can be fantastic for you guys, and especially I love to embrace my interior designers. I've made so many rooms. Look at these floor lamps, chairs in humanoid form, floor lamps in humanoid form. Look at these beautiful rooms. Here's a large open space. And what did I do to create this? I said, make a large open space with white walls, Japanese-inspired Zen, beautiful timber floor, beautiful natural light, large window, photorealism. And it gave me this beautiful space to work with. So, landscapes. Here's some skies. I might want to throw that into that composition. I was doing a seascape idea. Here's some, for these fantasy scapes, right? Let's just do this one real quick. So let's get this guy. Select subject. Copy. So you remember my test. Oh, what happened to my little baby? Well, I didn't want to select all of those guys, but it's pretty easy to fix. Let's get rid of those guys. So now I've got, instead of the baby, maybe now I've got, a flying. Cropped the wing here. That's going to be a problem. He almost has to be flipped around. Let's do an image. Let's do an edit transform, flip horizontal, so we can move his wing out like that. So now you can see how easy it is for me to start bringing these things in and montaging them around. All right. So your object selection tool, your at least 5 different elements for this particular assignment. Bring in a different sky, bring in some objects. Don't have it just be one, one element. and then play with scale. We want huge things. We want small things. We want to develop depth. We want overlapping. We don't want things in corners creating these big diagonal X's. We don't want things to be centered unless you specifically in your written component say, I wanted it to be centered because ... right? Think of your rule of thirds. This is the time to pull out all the stops on all the things, line, shape, form, texture, space, scale, color, value as it relates to rhythm, balance, movement, mood, the elements and principles. All right, let me know if you have any questions.